Hello, it's Rob here and welcome to this, the second of my build videos of my Tamiya Mad Bull. Today we're going to be looking at metal parts bag B, which is steps 6 to 13. Okay folks, we're on step 6, which is the beginning of parts bag B. Now, a note before we get into it. The first screws that it tells you to get are MA5s, 3x10 mils. Now don't worry if you have a look in your parts bag A and you've only got one left, because although these are denoted MAs, they are actually in your parts bag B bag. So there we go with that. Next, although it's a good thing that quite a lot of these bits have been cut out of the mould trees, the problem is this tells me that I've got to find part C2, which is this part, but it's not attached to a mould tree and there's no stamp or anything on there that says, oh yeah, this is part C2. So that's a bad thing in my opinion, because the diagram doesn't quite show you. If it showed you that view there like so, to say, oh yeah, this is C2, fair enough, but it took me a few seconds to work out that that was C2. So yeah, that's a bit of a gripe from me. So we'll get into it. We've got this pole here and it tells you to grease that pole, and it goes in there, if you can see that. Now the thing is, at the bottom here we've got hop up options, which I strongly recommend you do order for this kit, or for any Tamiya kit that doesn't come with them as standard. And this is the sealed ball bearings. So we've got an 850 little tiny one which goes in there, quite a loose fit for Tamiya. And then we've got the 1151 that goes in there, again a bit of a loose fit, but because I'm using them as generously supplied by Pete, I'm not going to grease that rod. If you've only got the base kit with the plastic bushings and the brass bushings, this is I think this is the 850 brass bushing you get, then do grease them up. You also should grease this. Is this the spur gear or counter gear it's calling it here, not the spur gear? But I'll do that off camera. I don't think you want to see me greasing that, because I'll just show you this. So this piece, then once you put that in place, screws in there with your 3 MA5s, 1, 2, 3. So I'll crack on, grease that up and screw that in, and we can move on to step 7. Okay, one more thing I hadn't noticed is, if you look here, I don't know if, no, yeah, we'll get it close. Yeah, I can brighten that up. But if you see here, there's a notch cut out in this piece of plastic that lines it all up for you, so you don't have to mess about trying to find the screw holes. So that's ready for step 7. Step 7 is installing the drive shaft, and I can't believe it, but they've already pre-installed the E-clip for you, which is, as far as I'm concerned, fantastic, because the amount of ones I've lost while videoing trying to put them in, if I had £1 for everyone I'd be a rich man. But there we go. We need to simply pop on an 5mm spacer stroke washer, then an 1150 bearing or plastic bush, and again plastic bush, do grease, what's that, the lower centimetre where the ball bearing will run or the bushing will run, and then it just simply pops through and the bearing pops into that part C2, which in this instance is really a nice tight fit, which is what you want. You always want a tight fit, don't you guys? I'm not saying anything else. And then we can move on to step 8. Right, step 8 is making up the right side of the diff and the right drive shaft. And it's the first time I need to cut something off a mould tree per se. But before we do that, I've just remembered, I don't think I've told you about these bits down the side here, which are actually in a scale of 1 to 1. So all you need to do is simply line the bit up, and if it seems to fit over the top very nicely, it isn't too short or too long, then you've got the right screws. And also the same with the washers and the bearings and everything else. Anything down this side is 1 to 1 scale. So now that that's done, again, I'm doing this because for the newbies, so I have a pair of wire snippers which are flat on the bottom. Don't need to be flat if you've got a pair of all different snippers, and I can't remember what they're called now, it's been that long since I've worked with them. But yes, so I cut the parts trees off like so, and then generally there's a tiny bit left which is quite jagged in some cases. So what I tend to do is get my scalpel and just go round like so from both directions if I feel I need to, just to smooth that off, and then again for the other one. Oops, a bit too much off there. There we go, nice and smooth now. And then, would you believe it, for this one, which to me I could already see from that diagram, they put a flat on view and also pointed out that there's a nick in there that lines up. But oh no, not on the first one. So I think I'm going to pop this on first. I've already put the bearing in, which turned out not to be quite as tight as the other one. But yes, it's tight enough that it will stay on. And then just to make it a bit easier, especially again, as I say, if you've got younger children that want to build one of these with you, I'll put a bit of PTFE on, and that does make screwing them in a lot easier. Some of these screws, especially in this like stiff plastic, get really hard at some point because they're self-tappers obviously. So yeah, like I say, if you want your son or daughter to help you and do some of the screwing in, bit of PTFE spray works wonders. So I'll get on with them, and then this just then slots in. And I know I'll keep repeating myself, but if you've only got the plastic bushings, do grease up, it'll run better. and we can then start step 9. Now then, step 9, building the differential gears. Now again, this is for all you newbies, so sorry for any of my subscribers who know all of this, but in case you don't, the differential allows your rear wheels, in this case, to move at different speeds so that it makes cornering easier. So because if you turn left in the UK, your near side rear wheel doesn't need to travel as far as your offside one, and because of the way this is with your 2 crown gears, one there and one there, and your 3 planetary gears, it allows for a bit of slippage, if you like, so that the outside wheel will travel a lot further than the near side one, and obviously in that case helps you with cornering. So with that, what I'm going to do in this instance is show you a dry fit, because yeah, you get quite a bit mucky, so I want to do this off camera so I don't get any grease on my little build guide. So we need parts B3 and B2, which are the really hard, tough plastic housings, and then we need 2 of these MB6s, and then we tip these out, and a crown gear. Some people I think call that a sun gear, but I prefer crown. I don't know, I've always grown up with crown gear, and I've always known these as planetary gears, and they go on, one on each one of these legs, if you can pick them up, which is quite difficult when you've got a bit of PTFE residue on your fingers. And then they slide into those 2 slots. I put that oh, this is supposed to be a beginner's guide and I'm cocking it up, guys. Put the first one on right and the second 2 on wrong. But hey, I'm 60, you know. So that, then you've got another crown gear on top, and your, what size is it, 9mm washer shim. And then in here we've got some slots, knock slots, some protrusions that line up with these slots, and you simply pop it together like so. And then we've got 3 2.6 by 8mm screws that go through there to tighten it all up. So I'll crack on and do the grease for that, and we can then get on to step 10. Step 10 is joining the 2 halves of the axle stroke gearbox stroke diff. So it's a simple case of popping the diff on the one shaft there and then closing them up, or closing the 2 halves. But if you can see there, I've gone round with a bit more grease on the join line just to help stop a bit of dust getting in, and then we just need to close it together something like so, he says in a posh voice. I don't know why, but there you go. What? And then it's just 3 more screws, but these ones are 12mm long. They're there, and can't see, right in that there where there's a big hole, and then we just need to screw it up and we can get on to step 11, so I'll finish that off. Well, step 11 is attaching the pinion gear to the motor. as well as this motor plate, as Tamiya call it, which is kind of, it kind of helps keep dust out of the gearbox, etc., because it covers up these 4 holes. Now I know there's 3 holes here, but only the 2 opposites are the screw mounts. Other non-Tamiya motors do tend to have more than 2 mounting screws, and most of them, if they do have these slots in them, this doesn't fit as tight, so you have to either put some anti-wear grease or something on them to hold them on to make it easier to screw in. But there we go. Now it comes with this 17 turn aluminium pinion, and you get a couple of these 3mm grub screws. However, my good friend Pete Smith of CW01 Creations has sent me this Tamiya hop-up steel pinion for it, and the obligatory 3mm grub screw, that's the word. And there's some arrows here telling you to bend these over. The green one is the negative, so that doesn't matter if any of this exposed solder touches the body or any other metal bits, because it's all part of the earthing, shall we say. But the blue, the yellow one, is the positive, so you don't want that touching the body, because like I say, the body will be negative. And we get this part here, which is D3, which again I've had to cut off a parts tree, but I haven't bothered trimming it because it's only been used for this bit. And somewhere on this bar there is a flat being cut into it, and oops, that will line up with your grub screw, and you slot it on and you just hold the pinion gear against this part. Oh dear, every time I get on camera. This is to line up the pinion gear with the spur gear when you mount it into the system, and I do use a lot of force, and a lot of people do use thread lock like this that Pete sent me as well, because I've lost mine. But honestly, I've never had a problem. And then you don't forget to take that off, and that's step 11 done. Well, step 12 is installing the motor, and up here there's a diagram showing you which holes to line up, because we've got the 17 tooth pinion gear. So unfortunately, looking at this, it doesn't tell you what other size pinion gear you can have with those 2 holes, but hey. So we poke it in the hole, and as you can see, hopefully the teeth are kind of meshing there, but it all lines up properly when you get these screws in. But yes, I think it's going to be one of these ones that is a bit hit and miss. So we've got a motor cap, I think they call it, and you need to poke the screws through there. I forgot to mention that I've put a bit of grease around there just to help it seal, And then, yes, you can just about see they poke through, only just about enough to catch, really. So unfortunately it's a case of trying to get it all lined up, get your screwdriver, start turning it, and then start wiggling. There we go, I think that's gone in. Yep. And then we just need to turn it round and hopefully find that the other side's lined up, which it doesn't look like it is. And yeah, there we go then. Bit easier than I thought it was going to be, especially as I'm on camera. And then we tighten those up quite tight. However, I'm I don't like tightening them too tight because it's tightening it onto plastic. But there we go. Step 12 done. Right, step 13 and the last step of parts bag B is going to take 7 10mm self-tappers, this great big long steel bar, lots of plastic bits, and this, which I know we'll find out eventually, but you need to put a MA4 14mm step screw into this side of the battery holder. Having a look at the other one, I'm guessing that that's going to be to hold the battery in, or to be able to take the battery out and to hold it in. So anyway, I've done that, and then we need to bring the chassis into play. And again, look at your diagram for your orientation. So that just goes there like so, with 3 screws. And then there we have worked out the same for the other side, like so. So I'll do them and we can come back to what these other 2 bits are for. Well, I got a bit ahead of myself and put this on before I should have. So anyway, we'll carry on to this part here, which is, what is it? A5, and this part F5, something I've not seen in a, basically a hopper, I would have said myself, and that is an axle brace. So it slots in behind these 2 bits here, like that, and then F5 goes over the top, and then one of these, are they 10mm ones? Yeah, 10mm self-tappers, screws it in. Right. Okay. There's a bit of a wobble in there, but that goes on, and then this will go through there and into there. Now, I don't understand why Tamiya haven't adopted that for other hoppers, because what will happen is this piece goes through here on the rear gearbox. We then slide it through there, it says, there we go, and it goes all the way through, and then it stops the rear gearbox from swivelling up, below. Which most of the other hoppers, it does do that, and you end up buying not even hop-ups. I don't think Tamiya do a brace like this for their other kits, but then once you've done that we need to pop this on with the other 3 screws. Okay, so I've possibly found a bit of an issue that I'm going to investigate before moving on to parts bag C, and that is there's something stopping the rear axle from swaying up and down side to side like that, if you can hear that. So I'm going to take this off and have a look. Okay folks, so what I've discovered is, if you can see, there's a bit of the mould, I think, tree sticking out, and that's been catching on the rear axle. So I'm just going to take that off. Like so, and I think I've just noticed that there's the same bit this side, so just in case that's got anything to do with it as well, we're going to take those bits off, and hopefully that will have sorted that problem out. Well my friends, cutting those bits off did actually work, but really sorry I forgot to video the results. And with that, I think I'm going to call an end to this video. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and look forward to seeing you for part 3, which I'm hoping is going to be at least the last of the chassis builds. Thanks for watching, bye!